Hi, everyone,
Good evening.
and welcome. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Source Talk Show, where God is who we look to. We are so happy and excited today to be here having another conversation with you, sharing. I'm excited, especially today. I'm celebrating my birthday, and I'm so happy to share this special day with you guys. So let's talk. We're talking about dating. My name is Michelle Velazquez, former president of the New England North Adventist Youth Federation. And with me is,
Hi, everyone. It's Tamika Tomlinson. I'm the active president of the New England North Federation. So, as Michelle said, we're going to be talking about dating and what married folks need to tell those single folks like myself, right? So, I'm excited because I really want to hear all the juicy stuff and all the stuff that, we need to know as single folks. So, we have some special guests with us that you will introduce to you a little later on. But before we do that, let's open up with prayers. So if everyone could, let's have a reverence so we can pray. Dear God, thank you so much for your grace, your mercy as we come together, oh God, to discuss once more a very important topic for youth, young adults, and even adults, Lord. I just pray, Lord, that you would be in our midst, that our conversation will glorify you, and that everyone that's listening, Lord, that they will receive something from it. Even as we are discussing, we will receive something. We thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Tamika, I'm excited. And I know that some of our young people have been talking about dating, and they have sort of answered some questions that we've thrown out there. Would you mind playing What's on Your Mind? Let's start out with What's on Your Mind. Let's see what's on the mind of our young people out there.
All right.
How are people dating these days? Some persons have taken up online dating to meet somebody, but for the majority of persons, they have stuck to the more traditional route. But dating has become very casual today, and it's kind of become synonymous to marriage and courtship, wherein the same things that they would do in a marriage, they are now doing during the dating stage in the world. But I believe that dating is a time where we get to meet somebody and build a friendship relationship, build a relationship of understanding without the pressure of a commitment and all that the relationship would have. And then you would move on to the stage of courtship and the stage of marriage and so on.
Hey Jeff, what are your thoughts on dating?
I've been in many a ship, sailed with many a mate. I believe that each was it, but we just couldn't relate. You see, life's ups and downs aren't for the fragile in heart. And make sure you know yourself so you can shoulder your part. As for me, I'll take it easy as I get to know God. No need to rush his providence, his moves are never subpar. Oh, man, it's complicated.
All right.
I love what he said, don't you? He said at the end, it's complicated. Isn't dating complicated?
It can be complicated. And especially if you're talking COVID-19 and, lockdown and all of that. People have found many creative ways to date. I was just watching someone for the first time doing a Zoom date, and that was interesting to see. It was awkward at times, but people have become creative in dating. So I'd like to hear from some of you in the chat. How are you dating? Share your
But
comments.
before you even go to everyone else in the chat, Tamika, I want to know what does dating look like today? What are people doing? Like what's happening? Please, what's tell me.
Like what the young people were saying, I agree with what Ashley said mostly, that you know um, there's a lot of casual dating. For me personally, I'm more about intentional dating, so it's not just casual. It's you're dating with a purpose, right? And you always, for me, state what those purposes are and what it is I'm looking for. Um, and by doing that, you're not like setting up yourself or getting attached easily to someone before getting to know them. So, um, I don't just date because, it's important to date with intention. And if you see that that person is not right for you, and you will know pretty quickly, then that's not the tree you need to be barking up at. So, that's how I think about dating, and it's just a way to get to know different people and to get an understanding of who they are, what are they looking for, in life.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, I just noticed that, like, I talk to my friends who are dating, and I would hear stuff like, well, we're doing online dating because, I mean, even before COVID, there was a lot of online dating, and I don't know how it works. Like, how does it work to be dating somebody online? And how long do you date someone online? So I want to kind of bring in the young people, but I want to introduce our guests first. I would just like to introduce, first of all, we have a whole group of people who will be joining us to talk about this. And representing our young teens, we have Julius, Semple-Dormer. Julius, could you please just welcome to the source, and can you please share with our audience a little bit about who you are, um, what school you're going to, what things you like to do. Just share a little bit about yourself.
Basketball, playing games with friends, hanging out, just chilling. So that's what I do. I go to Sandy Spring Friends in Maryland. It's a Quaker school, so it's a strange environment, but it's a good experience. I get to see a lot of worldly things and learn a lot of lessons.
Okay. Well, welcome to the source. I hope that you will feel free to ask your questions and share your thoughts on dating. Julius how old are you, Julius? If you don't mind
16, my
sharing.
big sweet 16.
Julius is 16, so he's going to share the perspective of the 16-year-old. Joining us also is our special guest, all the way from Tennessee. We have Joseph Wilson, who is a therapist. He is a marriage therapist, and he's been doing this for about 3 years now. So please share a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what you enjoy doing with us. Welcome to the source.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. What's up, everybody? My name is Joseph Wilson. I am a marriage and family therapist in the Nashville area, and I am host of the Love Unscripted podcast, where we have unscripted conversations with millennials about relationships and dating. And when I'm not doing that, I just like going out in nature. I like taking it real easy. I love movies. I'm a big movie buff, so that's what I do in my spare time.
Awesome. And I also want to welcome you. Thank you for taking this time out, because I know you have your own show, right?
I do.
So thank you for joining us on the source. I'd also like to introduce to you guys my husband, who's joining me on the source, John Velazquez. Thank you so much for joining us, John. Please feel free to share something interesting about yourself.
Well, I married this beautiful lady next to me, so that's something interesting. With her, every day is interesting, so that's always a good thing. I do construction, so I like build stuff. I have that career that Jesus had, carpenter. So that's kind of cool. I love nature. I love cars. I love anything that is fast, skydiving, rock climbing,
Wow.
motorcycle, quad, all this good stuff. Anything that goes fast, I like. So,
Well,
yeah.
welcome to the source, John.
Thank
you
you.
for joining.
So next we have Jonathan and Mryiam. We want to introduce you. Welcome to the source.
Hello. Good afternoon. We're so happy to be here with the New England North Federation. First of all, we have to tip our hat to you and say thank you. This initiative is amazing. We love what you're doing, and we love the consistency that you guys have thus far. I would also say we are married for 4 years. This is my wife. Their name, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mryiam. Jonathan and I have been married for 4 years. We do a lot of ministry activities. He's a teacher. I work in health administration. Something interesting about us in our free time, we like to enjoy nature. So getaway, nature, cabin getaways, walks in nature, hikes.
Yeah,
that's it, right?
Yeah, I would say that's it. I would say we're both sort of easygoing and laid back a little bit, and I would say that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's everyone has something in common here. Well, most everyone, they love nature, and that's
yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that everybody mentioned the nature part of things, which is great. Well, welcome you all to The Source, and I would just like to welcome those who are watching. Guys, please remember, feel free to put your questions in the chat if you have any questions throughout the conversation and you would like to ask. Put your questions in the chat. Share the link so somebody else can see the show and join the conversation and just be encouraged. We're here to encourage and to uplift each other. Okay, let's go right ahead. And I would just like to pull out the young guy here and to ask, tell me, what does dating look like today? What are people doing for dating? Have you started dating? Are you interested in that right now? Tell me a little bit more, Julius.
Well, around me, it's just a lot of casual flings and things of that nature. At this age, no one's trying to get married. It is what it is. Of course, there's always some exception. There's 1 or 2 kids who they've been dating for like 3 years, something crazy of that nature. But usually it's just casual flings. Personally, if I'm talking to someone, it's casual. I have an assignment missing tomorrow. I don't care that much. I try to keep it on a level because, especially at this age, those feelings can get ahead of you, and they do get ahead of you. So I try to keep it casual, just mess around and have fun.
All right. So are you guys doing this casual dating online or in person? How does it work?
Now, I'm not going to out myself because I don't want to share that perspective, but I have friends who do both of those things, who go in person and meet their crushes, the people they're dating, et cetera, et cetera. And I have friends who stay online majority of the time. It is what it is.
I mean, guys, seriously though, we're in a COVID era. So how are people dating? Anybody wants to jump in? I mean, feel free. Even if you're married, you can still talk about it, right?
Well, I have a lot of single friends who are older. They do a lot of online dating. I think a lot of them find that maybe where they live, pickings are kind of slim. The pool of eligible bachelors is really low. So they do a lot of online dating. There's a lot of Christian websites as well. And in terms of COVID, they do meetups with social distancing.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think technology has given... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say technology has given everybody access to more people. Even though we're in a pandemic, we're in our phones a lot more. So we're finding more creative spaces to find people to potentially date. And with COVID going on right now, people are still, like she said, social distancing and dating. Like I've seen people at the park and they're over there, like I can see them shooting eyes at each other, but it's kind of weird because they're so far apart. But it's people are doing what they have to do to meet a natural need that they have, and that's to connect with somebody. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's right. So when you think about dating, I know that, well, we have 3 of you that are married on here. How has dating changed from when you were dating versus now, you think?
That's a good question. I think a few things have changed. Some things have stayed the same, but a few things have changed. So myself personally, I never really did the whole I never really did the online dating thing. I guess my personal style was always like, I don't want to just jump into something. Sort of like what you said to me, I want to be like intentional. And so I said, I want to be intentional. And so I remember I said, you know what? For me, it always has to start out as a friendship, right? But I think one of the things was because there wasn't as much. There was some dating apps, but again, I didn't really use those. I think one of the bigger things is people sort of you had to be more, it was in overlapping spaces. You had to be intentional about overlapping spaces. And so people, they were going certain places. They were sort of thinking about, okay, there's a potential to meet somebody here. And so I think overlapping spaces and interactions in person were more significant. I think as time goes on, eventually you're going to start interacting in person. But I do think you're not having to go outside now to break the ice face to face. You can break the ice through social media. And so I think that's one of the big things that's changed is, you're really able to size somebody up before you even meet them in person, and then you can break the ice. Whereas I remember my wife, like when I started having interest in her, we were in the same group. So we knew some of the same people. And so it was a lot more face-to-face interaction that we were dependent on. That's just one way. But I know I haven't dated in years, so I couldn't speak for everything though.
I think
but would you
true.
say that there is something that is missed in online dating? Is there anything missing there?
Listen, the fear a guy has to overcome in order to talk to a woman. I had to literally ask my wife for her phone number. Like I had to go up to her. I had to face potential rejection in the eye and overcome it. Over social media, all you have to do is send a text, and if they don't respond or you get blown off, nobody knows about it. You don't have to look that person in the eye. Like I feel like people are a lot more bold over the internet versus in person. You got to be able to talk to her while her friends are watching. I mean, that's a whole different level of confidence that you need to have to even be able to start to talk to somebody. So I think back then you had to be a little more bold, where now there's not as much risk associated with pursuing somebody and potentially getting rejected.
Right. That's true. That's so true.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna say that was asking what's the difference between dating and courting? Like, is there a difference?
Yeah, I think there's a difference. I just want to add something before I go there. I would say there's almost the risks are much lower for dating now. I think the only risk is maybe like someone screenshotting. That's it. Like, but outside of screenshotting, you're right, my brother Joe. I gotta agree, Joe. Like, there's not really the same risk. You're not really having to break the ice the same way. But I think there's a difference between dating and courting. I think courting, you sort of are from what I hear from people, like it's like people dating, you might be getting to know different. Like it might be a different person, right? So someone might go on a date with one person, and maybe a few weeks later a different person. I guess getting to size someone up or get to know them. Well, I feel courting is more consistent with the person and working towards something and trying to get to know. I mean, both, you're both trying to get to know more about each other, but I think courting, you sort of gone past the dating stage and you're sort of serious. You know what? I feel like this can go somewhere. And so there's a whole process of that, in terms of it's now more, you were saying, go ahead. Yeah.
Courting is more exclusive than dating. You're honing in on one person and focusing on building something with that person.
And I think you're almost set on long term in the sense that dating, you might go home and say, I don't know how I feel about so-and-so. I don't know how I feel about them. It was okay. Courting's like, all right, he lives over there. I live there. If this is going to work out, who's going to make the move? And my career, my schedule's not going to work out with their schedule. And do we have the same views about this or that? I think when you're courting, you're zeroing in and you're going past who are you, where you're from, what do you do for a living? Now you're seeing how that impacts both of you, I think, in courting. But I mean, there's a lot more to it.
Mm-hmm. So I know, well, someone was saying in the chat as well that they know a friend who got married. Well, not married. They met someone online, and they just did the online dating situation, and then now they're engaged. You know, it's a good idea. You know, I can imagine that doing the online dating, it's shorter, right? The shorter engagement period that you have, right? Is it better to do that, or you know, is it good to get engaged to someone under these circumstances? Just meeting them a few months and getting to know them, and is it easier or better?
So the thing is, like, if it's just via like online, they're gonna be in some trouble. They're gonna be in some trouble because now you haven't factored in the real life aspect. What they're doing is dating someone's representative, especially if it's exclusively online. You're only dating what their representation of them is on the app, on Instagram, on Snapchat, whatever it is. That's not the real them in the real world. How many times do we get upset when we see someone in real life and the filter does not, like the pictures we saw don't match who they are? Or even for me, someone's voice sounded completely different when I was dating. I was like, wait, hold on. And this was when Facebook was still super new. Like, so I was like, this doesn't seem right. There's something wrong here. But if you only exclusively date based on just the internet experience, when reality comes into play, you're not going to know what to do because you haven't built that real-time connection, understanding how people respond under pressure. Like you can't problem solve via the text message. Like it can't. Like you can't do that.
I mean,
it has to be in person.
Even if they met one time over the holiday?
No. I wouldn't subscribe to it. I wouldn't subscribe to it because that's still off of one time.
Yeah.
You know, I had a friend of mine and she met her husband online and they got married. I had another friend of mine, he met this girl online. He flew to meet her, and when he got there, the girl didn't have arms. Like that is like, he was shocked because all the pictures, but she had an accident and she didn't tell him that. So when she met her, you know, the lady didn't have arms. So, you know, and then you have all the people that, you know, they don't do it. Me, I think online dating was like 2 seconds. I broke up with this girl, you know, and I went, some friend of mine is like, oh, go online, man. I went to a Christian site. I put all the information. I filled everything up. This is what I want about, you know, a lady that I would like to meet. I press enter, and the next thing I know, who pops up? The picture or my ex. And I'm like, oh, that was it. Two minutes. I exited, and I never did that again. It was like, no, you know. So I like more the interaction face to face, you know, and be rejected or be, you know, say okay, you know. So to me, I like it more, you know. So yeah, that's my side there. So
we definitely can say that there are some things that are missed. We can't get to see the true nature in the fullest sense if you're doing a complete online dating. But I'm assuming also that people eventually meet. They meet up somewhere, even though they start online, they don't stay online. Yeah. But like married folks, I'm bringing in the married folks now. Like, so here we are, we're dating online, and you know, he's nice, he looks good, he talks nice to me. I made up with him. What are some of the things I need to be looking for if I'm looking for a potential mate?
Are you talking about online or just in general?
Well, we were dating online, and now we've met in person. Because I'm sure almost everybody is doing this online dating, especially now within the pandemic. What are you doing? You know, it must be some sort of online dating. But eventually you meet up. So now we've met up. What should I be looking for in that potential person if I'm looking for a mate or a marriage, a husband or a wife?
I would say, first of all, I've never dated online, but I have friends who do it. And some tips that I've gotten from conversations with them is when you're transitioning from like virtual to in person, is to try to get acquainted with this person's environment in their community. Because up until that point, you've only had conversations with them and you haven't had a chance to observe them in public, like around their friends, maybe church family, or just people in general. So you're going to meet up with them. Of course, it's going to be just you and the person, but you want to be able to find out deeper things, like how are your interactions at work? What does your day-to-day look like? You know, I have other single friends. I'm sure you have friends. Can we group date, or can we meet up with some people? Because you get a better view of someone as a whole when you are connected to their community. So that would be the first thing I think somebody should do, transitioning from online into in person.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's really good. Can you even stand being in their presence? Like, people talk a really good game. Like I said, some people are keyboard warriors. Like, they can spit a game like anybody on the phone, but can they complete a complete sentence? Like, can you do you enjoy being in their presence? And after that, I would even start getting to a little bit more deeper now, because now that we are in each other's presence, let me ask you some tough questions and see how you respond. Just ask questions that could potentially evoke an emotional response and see how they act. Here's a simple one. So what's your relationship like with your parents? That one is going to make, depending on where they're at, they're either going to have, wow, okay, let me talk about them, or why we got to talk about that? Let's just eat our food. Like, why are you eating all this? It's a heat check. It can tell you where they're at. So as soon as you get offline, see if you can stand them, but then start just asking questions here and there. Like, they don't got to be all deep, but just ask some questions that could potentially evoke an emotional response and see what they do.
That's huge. I mean, I think that's spot on, Joe. I think that's spot on. It is huge, because the reality is, by the time you now are in person, you have decided at least mutually that the physical attraction is there, right? So that's not necessarily an issue. So if I already saw you online, I'm like, okay, this person looks interesting. Now I see you in person, I'm like, okay, it's an attractive person. But, you know, that's not what marriage is every day. Marriage isn't looking like having your best outfit on and your face all done or whatever. That's not what it is. Marriage is two people coming from two different upbringings, two different personalities, two different backgrounds, and you're putting that all into the same space. I had a friend of mine, he got married pretty young. He was about 21. His wife was 19. He really came from a tough background. He'll tell you, I came from a lot of dysfunction, man. And his wife came from a little more of a stable background, but they were very young. And he said he remembers their first argument. And he said their first argument was about soap. They were in a financially really bad place. They were cash strapped, and they had a little bit of dishwasher soap left. And he's like, "Oh, no problem. We have body wash in the bathroom. We'll use that to clean the soap." And his wife was like, "What do you mean body wash? I mean, clean the dishes. I mean, to use it as dish detergent. Just put a little water in the leftover detergent, shake it, and use that." And so they have two different ways to deal with it. And I mean, he said I never thought that we would get in a full all-out argument based off what to do when the dish detergent is low. And coming from there, it's not just that people spend money differently, people clean differently, people spend, I mean, all these things. Well, my mom cleans like this, or I clean up like this, or you clean up like that. It might sound minute, but it makes a difference if you're living with somebody 24/7, sharing space with them 24/7. And I think you have to realize, is this person someone who can compromise at times too, right? If it's always when you're dating in person and it's always what they want to do, something's wrong, right? You know, it's how do we compromise? How do we give? How do we take? But you're right. Those tough questions are important, because marriage is a marathon. It is an absolute marathon, and it takes work. And what you did yesterday is cool, but today you have to do work. And what you did today is nice, but tomorrow you have to do work. And nobody else on the planet will do the work for you in marriage. So in being a marathon, you have to consider, and you're going to be with this person all the time, I know I can handle you at your best. I can deal with your best is easy to deal with. Can I handle you at your worst? And can that other person handle you at your worst? You know, so those are things to consider, definitely. So I think that all stems back to Joe's question. Like, again, not everything has to be a philosophical debate, but ask tough questions here and there because that's what marriage is going to be. That's what it's going to be.
That is true. I love what you said. You really have to ask tough questions because when you get, how the person operates on their worst is more important. And they'll show you all the good parts of them when you're dating because that's what they want you to want them. So they're going to show all the good parts of them. So you really have to see, I think, take your time and see that person in different situations and allow yourself to pay attention because sometimes we overlook certain things because we just want to be with that person. But pay attention. And it doesn't mean that you have to say, oh, this person is not good enough for me because they're not responding to a difficult situation the way I want them to. But you can just pay attention and say, this is what you will have to deal with when you get into the marriage. This is what I'm going to have to do. Can I deal with it? Okay. I just want to go read a little bit about what is in our chat right now. We have some folks from Canada. Welcome, Crystal. We have people in different parts watching in England. Thank you guys for joining us, Joy. And there's a question for Julius. I have a question for you, Julius. They said, my question is for Julius. Since he is young, people change so much throughout their younger years. How do you go about dating with intent, knowing you and they are bound to change?
It's a real good question.
It's a good question.
I would give advice to my fellow peers that whatever intent you have now, it's probably going to change when you get into college. It's probably going to change in a year. It's probably going to change in a month. I've met so many people online that you meet them once in real life, like, let's go to the next person. And when you get too serious and too caught up in that, is this the one for me? Am I going to want to be here for a long period of time? You get lost. A lot of these kids are out here just being kids. That's what they're doing. They aren't at that level where they can say even, like, there was a great question that someone said, what's your relationship with your family? Well, here's a personal story. I was with this female, let's just say, I was a beautiful woman. And we're not going to explain when or where or how, but it happened. And I ran to her family, and it was interesting. I realized, hey, obviously, me, Joy, I'm here to have a great time, have a good experience. And this is just a reminder that this is not something serious. This is not something that I want to get entangled with, and to take that precaution. I think it's like jumping on a bed of needles. You have to be careful, very, very careful. Now, at an older age in college, I can't tell you what's right or wrong because I'm not there yet. But at my age, I would tell people be careful, stay cautious, and just don't get too serious because you can get lost in the sauce.
Can I piggyback on that question real quick and go back, Julius, real quick? So what, I guess, I'm now thinking about this too, because I'm thinking about when I was in high school, I didn't know what I liked somebody, maybe I talked to them, maybe I didn't. So I forgot about being that age. And so going back to that age, what do you learn about yourself as you, because I think one thing is sometimes we learn, I remember like when I was in high school, any girl I was interested, she just had to be pretty to me. That's it. Like, oh, she's pretty, that's all that matters. But I remember when I got to college, I met people that I thought were attractive, and I felt like we had great conversation. I was like, oh, I think I want more than pretty now. I want pretty, I want to be attracted to you, but I also want a good conversation. I want that as well. And probably I was like 18 years old, when that happened, right? 18, 19 years old. Not to say I had it all figured out, but I learned, even though, like you said, you don't necessarily know where it's going, but I learned about myself. Like, I want a pretty girl, but I also want a girl who, like, if I'm not with you in person, I'm on the phone with you, I gotta feel like it's worth it and the conversation is great. What have you personally learned through your experiences about yourself and what you like? Or is it just, I don't know, you don't really know yet? Or have you learned about yourself yet through this process?
I've learned a lot about myself. I learned about some of my nuances, and through some criticism and some interesting conversations, I've also learned that I'm imperfect. A lot of times, I might not see the stars what they are. But to go back to what you said about deep conversations, no. If I'm on a call, we aren't talking about anything of substance. If we're texting back and forth, yeah, it's just that substance isn't here at this age. I have conversations with my older brothers, and they're like, I'm looking for someone with deep meaning, deep conversations. I want to talk about law and all these interesting subjects. And we're talking about like what we did this day. If we want to do some Minecraft, some nonsense that doesn't even matter. That's just not here at this age. Maybe I see it in college, but not now.
Gotcha. Yep. That's what it is. Good point. That's what it is.
That's a good point. So
I think it doesn't matter what age you're in, regardless if you're 16 years old or you're 30 years old. It's like, always be honest with yourself and be honest with the other person. It's like when I was growing up, I was always, I always like to laugh and I always like to joke around and do these things. And my dad was like, when you go out, like I'm going out with this girl, and like, listen, don't act like that. Be serious. And I'm like thinking to myself, why am I going to, if that's not me, I'm not going to show that person something that I'm not, right? Me as a young person, I always say, you're going to accept me the way I am, or you're not. Some people are serious, some people are not. Can you imagine everybody being serious and everybody being a joker, or everybody looking like me, or then what? She's black, I'm white. It's like, but it doesn't matter. She's beautiful and I'm a handsome man. It's what it is. But always, it doesn't matter. 16, 35, 40, whatever, 50, 60, it doesn't matter. Just be yourself and be honest with the other person.
Yeah. Dating, so would you guys encourage a young person to get deeply involved in dating if they're not serious about the relationship and taking it to a certain level? What should the young people at that age be doing?
Being kids and having fun playing Minecraft. I always say relationships are for grown folks. Like, I really think it takes mature people to get emotionally connected to somebody else and be able to handle the ramifications of it. Like, so often people are pushing their teens to start dating or just allowing them to before they're even ready to get out there and make emotional attachments. Like, as a therapist, I see so many teens who are willing to commit suicide over their boyfriends that they've only been with for a month. So they're not emotionally ready to be out there. So I always say, if you're young, let them be kids. Let them have fun, do whatever they do. Don't be so in a rush to allow them to engage in that type of relationship, because there are grown folks who can't even handle being in a relationship. So what makes us think that younger people who have not had the full expansive experiences that we have, or even the tools of dealing with other people to be able to handle that such deep emotional power? Like, it's very irresponsible of adults and of us to let them do that. We wouldn't let a kid that's 15 handle a loaded gun without supervision. So why would we hand over something so powerful that God created, such as love and emotion, over to somebody before they're ready to fully be aware of the responsibilities, ramifications, and also the benefits of going about it the right way?
Yeah, that's so
perfect.
And a lot a lot of times, people get involved intimately, and because they do that, they form these attachments that are not necessarily, it's not deep attachments, it's more like lust, right? And so you get caught on, I'm in love, but are you really in love? But for our young adults that's watching, a lot of them, you hit the 20 mark, right? And now you feel like, oh, I need to be settling down. I need to be finding my soulmate, right? What are some red flags that you may want to share with that young adult when it comes to marriage? That they may see in another person that they need to definitely turn the other way, to 180. What are some red flags as a married couple that you would like to share?
Jealousy.
If they tell you oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I'm just saying jealousy. If somebody, like, if you're dating a girl and you have a friend that is a female and they see her and they're like, oh, who's that? My friend. She's like, oh, what? That's your friend? No, you're not going to talk to her anymore. Stuff like that. There was a girl that did that to me, and I was like, that was it. Like, when she did that, it was like she was calling me the next day, and I'm like, lost her phone. I don't know who she is. I was just like, right out. I told her, yeah, I'm good, thank you, but no, thank you. Right away.
I say lack of consistency, popping up and disappearing, telling you, oh yeah, I do want to be with you, I'm in love with you, but then they're gone and then they reappear. The lack of consistency is a big red flag, because you don't want to be locked in marriage with somebody who can disappear just like that, and then in the same breath say, oh, I'm here for you. That don't make any sense. I think that's a major red flag. Lack of consistency.
So if their words don't match up with their actions, then definitely U-turn.
Yeah. And I think to add to, well, in the same plane as lack of consistency is, there's the words not matching up with the actions, but also, like I said, their presence, right? A lot of people, they are, like, I know a lot of friends of mine, like, what it is, it's sort of like playing the field. They sort of look at you as, you're decent for now, but I really have my fun, and I got to do me, and I know a lot of men specifically, and it'll be a thing with women as well, but I know a lot of men are always thinking, is the grass greener on the other side? Like, what I have to, my yard is good, but is the grass greener on the other side? So it's like, they'll like you, keep you at an arm distance length, just in case things work out. Like, all right, that's my backup prize, just in case, but I got to go out there and look and see what's going on. And so you do get a lot of inconsistency with that too. So it's just like, they're not texting back on time, like you said, or they're just not consistent. Yeah, like you said, and they're not consistent. A lot of times, people want to be consistent about what they're consistent about. If they go jogging every day, they're going to be consistent being jogging every day. So why can't they communicate or whatever's going on with them? Usually as an indication, not to say that they don't have any interest, but they're not ready to settle down, or they're sort of just, they have their own timeline that they're going on, that they're like pulling you along on, but they're going at their own pace. And it's incredibly selfish. And it happens so often.
So how do you know?
I got another one.
How do you know when someone's right for you then? How do you know?
Oh, wait, let's go back to Joe's response before we go into that one. I want to hear the other one first, please.
Yeah.
And then we'll
So
go
another
into
another red flag is someone who's not willing to talk about their past relationships. If it's a closed off vault and they don't want to talk about it at all, that's some red flags that something may have happened that they don't want you to find out, or they just don't want to share. And if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, you have to know what are some of these things that cause previous ones to either fail or be successful. It doesn't always have to be bad, but if they're not willing to talk about it at all, that's a red flag that you may not want to go further emotionally with that person.
Wait, what about if somebody takes you out on a date and they don't want to pay? Is that a red flag?
Oh, yeah.
As a female, if a male takes you out on a date and he does not want to pay, is that a red flag?
I mean, there are definitely character things that pop up, and those are definitely things that people should be aware of. Like, some people have, anger issues that you might not be able to deal with, and those things pop up, so there's a lot of things that pop up that you do have to look for, but there's general things, but everybody's so unique and people have different personalities. And so I think, like I said, you have to be yourself. You have to know yourself, and you have to know what you want. And if you know yourself and you're honest with yourself, one thing I've learned is that because you're going to be vulnerable eventually, right? You're going into a relationship, you're going to be vulnerable, and you're not going to be able to hide anymore. You're not going to be able to put on a show for anybody. You must make sure with yourself, even though it's easier said than done, and I think it's important to get professional help if you struggle with it, is not leave any stones unturned. Why do I do what I do? Why do I like what I like? Why do I not like what I dislike? So a lot of times we're looking at other people, and that's important. But you also have to be honest about yourself, because there's a reason why you do what you do. Sometimes we get to the answer, sometimes we don't get to the answer, but it's important to know why we are the way that we are, why we like what we like, why we want what we want. Because something may not be a bad in someone, right? What might be a red flag to you might not be a red flag to somebody else. And so I think it's important for you to be honest with yourself of what do I like, what do I not like? And if you're not honest with yourself before you get involved with someone, I mean, it's going to be a disaster. You have to be honest. No stones should be unturned. Every stone should be unturned. And eventually, as much as you can. I know it's not realistic for every stone all the time, but as much as you can. So it's the other person, but it's also you. That's your 50% of the relationship. So being honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to do pre-engagement counseling then, like even before you even think about it, like, making sure you iron out all those kinks and understand who you are. Understand, like you said, your own identity in Christ, and then also what you're looking for as a single person. And I know a lot of times, people go into relationships, they don't even know who they are, what they want in life, what their goals are, what they want to do 2 years from now. And then they jump into these relationships and expect like, oh, someone's going to fix me or make me a person. And it's important that you know who you are before you jump into another relationship with someone.
And that's good that you mentioned that, because me and one of my friends who's also a therapist, we're talking about why don't more people do relationship counseling while they're dating? Like, why do we wait until we're about pay money for a ring and about to start putting down payments on venues before we start to go into that deep emotional stuff from our past? And we were thinking, like, we actually think it will be more beneficial to do it while you're dating, because guess what? You get to heal in the process. You may not stay with that person, but you're able to now answer questions of, why did that make me upset? What was it about this situation that made me uncomfortable? You start getting answers for yourself that now you can take from that situation and continue to be better in the dating world. You're actually being able to heal and get better. And even if it's somebody that you're like, hey, this may have a shot, let's try it out. I mean, even if you want to go like half on it, you can at least see if there's some type of compatibility, and it saves you time. If you guys decide, okay, you have this kind of mentality and philosophy that I am completely not budging on, then why do we need to continue and get emotionally connected all this time? So I think that you mentioned that was very funny, because I was thinking about it. I was like, that would be perfect. And I'm actually going to start trying to encourage, like, if you're dating somebody and you guys, even if you're not engaged, just go and do a session, see what it's like, see what you learn, because it's only an upside. You may not like the fact that you find out, okay, this person may not be for me, but you become better as a person, and you being better as a person allows you to be better for your next relationship.
So true. So true. So true. So guys, go ahead, Mryiam. I'm sorry.
I wanted to say, to piggyback off of what Joe said, I think a lot of people don't do it because they're not informed. So things like that, you would find out about the options to do these things probably like in your singles ministry, through your singles ministry programs at church. I found that growing, but I was blessed. Let me say I was blessed to have older people around me that I could look up to, but everybody doesn't have that. So, and I didn't grow up in a church where we had things of substance and singles ministry programs. So when it's to counseling or different types of, personal building things that you can do, we just weren't informed about these things. And I feel like if our church resources develop these things, people could find out about those things and get involved as well. And outside of that, it's important to have mentors. Even if you're Julius's age and you're now getting, sort of involved with the opposite sex, having that older person with you to mentor you and guide you through is also important as well. But we just don't know about these things.
Yeah, very true. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I want to just, we're close to the end of our program already. It's just crazy how the time just went by so quickly. But I wanted to throw out this question. Where does God fall into the process of dating and getting married? How do we include him in that process?
That's a rich question.
Or should we?
He's the secret sauce. Like
That's
he's
it.
the secret sauce. You start and you end with him and filter everything that comes to you through him. Like it's difficult for me to be a Christian and try to act outside of what I believe to be true. And so when I was dating, one of the things that I had to put in front of me first was, okay, I am dating, but it has to go through a filter. It has to match up biblically. And so the person that I wanted had to fall within certain parameters. It actually allowed me to be able to objectively create a standard for myself that was not based on how I felt any given day, but was a standard that does not change. So I won't change it based on how fine somebody is or how much money somebody is. It's the standard. And having Christ in there allows you to create that standard that it doesn't put pressure on me. And it is not based on my feelings and mood, because listen, it changes like the wind. Like if the married couple could be honest, like there are times where we're not always on the same page with our spouse. Sometimes we're like, yo, why are you breathing like that? Like that's part of the experience. but being able to have God as the filter. See, yeah. So being able to have God as the filter for that and to be able to create the standard for us, now we have a solid and true means for progressing in the dating world. And if something doesn't align with it, we can automatically dismiss it without feeling bad, without feeling any kind of remorse, because we know that God's standard is going to be the best for me. And the standard may not be the same for everybody. What God wants for me and my standard may be different from Jonathan. It may be different from what he tells Julius his standard needs to be. But being able to listen to that and filter what you do through that will make it a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
That's big. I think that's true.
That's big. That's big.
I was, before when I was younger, I used to date people not from the church. And you have to go through the process of, I don't drink alcohol. I don't sleep with people before I get married and all that stuff. And then there was this girl and I asked her out and she goes, I cannot go out with you. I'm like, why? One of my friends told me how you are. So I cannot do that. If I go out with you, I want to just be intimate with you. And I'm like, okay. And then I was like, you know what? Why do I have to look for people that they don't believe what I believe? And I said, you know what? No more non-Christian. I'm going to try to find people that believe what I believe. So that makes it even easier, as opposed to you going to a place or to a bar and then you tell them you're going to the bar, but then you're like, I don't drink. So why are you in the bar? You know what I'm saying? Well, you wanted to come, and it's like you put yourself in situations that you really shouldn't be in anyways, and as got a little bit older, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to deal with that. So now I'm looking for a Christian woman that loves God, that is going to put me where I need to be put by, through God, and those things you don't have to, as it is, a relationship is so hard.
Yeah.
Why do you need to have that extra thing? Or, she's going to church on Sunday and you're going to church on Saturday. No, man. It's like, it's not going to be easy, but try to make it as easy as you can, and one less thing that you have to worry about anyways, Yeah.
I think also to piggyback on what you guys are saying, when you have God, you have that compass for expectations, and also he impacts your view of what the purpose of marriage is, right? The purpose of marriage, really, there are moments, you have your highs, you have your lows, you have times you're going up and down, but with God, God helps you put everything back into perspective. One of the things about marriage is like if you're dating, you might do something, for like a prize per se, right? You might see your person that you're courting, right? They're having a bad day, and I don't know. You help them with something. You know, you might get a kiss or something per se, right? Marriage is a place where you're constantly doing something for someone else, and you don't really do it for a thank you though. Like, how many times in marriage are you doing something for each other, and it's just what's expected? Like at our house, that we both can do the laundry, but my wife usually will take control of the laundry and fold my clothes, and I'll wake up and I'll see, oh, everything's all set up for me, right? If there's certain things in the house that I have to fix or take care of, or certain bills that I'm taking care of, she doesn't even have to know what's going on. I'm taking care of it. But it's not like every time I do it, she's like, thank you so much for doing it. Or every time she does it, she's like, thank you so much for doing it. You know, marriage, when you're forced to talk to God and have a relationship and pray, God, first of all, it forces you to think. It forces you to reflect. It forces you to be aware. And there's a humility part that's important as well, because there are people that are professed Christians and they use it in an arrogant way. Like there are some people that will take their Christianity and in an arrogant way use it to demean you, to use it in the wrong way. It has to be a humble, genuine Christianity where you're able to say, if you say I'm sorry to God every day, you should be able to say I'm sorry to my spouse. You know what I mean? If you're aware of how you might hurt God, you should be. It makes you now think, maybe I hurt my spouse, right? And so, and then there's a last thing I would say from here is just, if you have a dependence on God in your general spirituality, it should roll over into your marriage in the sense that marriage is a thing where you almost have to throw expectations out the window. And that's why I like what Joe said, God's expectation becomes an expectation. Because in your mind, you create expectations. When we get married, when I get home from work, this is how it's going to be. It's going to be a candlelit table, and we're going to have dinner. We're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Yeah, right. You get back home from work, and you're tired. They're tired. You're on the couch. They're over there. And how was your day? Oh yeah, sorry. And with it's not. It's work to do these things. And I think if you understand that you have to work with God daily, and you have your devotional life, and you're talking to God, and you're in His Word, it automatically reminds, okay, God, I'm working with you, and I got to work with my spouse. If having conversation with God helps me grow with Him, then having conversation with my wife is going to help me grow with her, right? And so I think being aware with God makes you more aware in your marriage, and that is huge. That's why God is huge.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Those are awesome nuggets that you guys are giving us today. Just letting us know that if God is at the center and this relationship is okay, then this relationship will be okay. And so I know it seems like we're going to have to do part 2 and maybe even because there's just so much. There were so many questions in the chat we didn't get to go to when it comes to, knowing, talking about the list. A lot of females and yes, maybe males too. We have that list, right, of what we're expecting. And but I just want to thank you for all the nuggets that you've shared with us. It was a very good conversation to have. And I hope that each of you did learn something. Julius, and Joe and Jonathan and Mryiam, we're so glad to have you.
Yes, we did.
Thank
You guys were amazing.
This was fun.
Thank you guys for sharing. You guys go ahead.
No, I was gonna say also check out. I did check out your page, Joe. On it's Love Unscripted. Those of you who are watching, you can go online and check out his YouTube page. He has a lot of more information that you can, learn from. So.
Definitely. YouTube and Facebook. He's on Instagram as well. He's there, so check him out. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it. Julius, would you like to share any last advice for your friends out there or young people your age? Feel free to just say some encouraging words before you go.
Well, I'll just say, just keep it casual until you're ready, and ready is different for all people. Ready for you might even be 21. You might be in college and say, wow, all my boxes are checked, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. This is the one. But just keep it casual until then, because you can get so lost. I have friends at this age who are lost in terrible situations because of things that have happened to them. So just stay you. But also remember that you have so much life. The majority of us are going live for like 80 years old. Come on, there's so much time. Use your time for what you need now and save some time for everyone else a little bit later.
Awesome. I'm so excited that you guys are able to join us, just to remember that without God, we can do nothing. And the process of dating starts very young, even though we may not get serious right away. And we can start with God whenever we start the process, because He is the source of everything: knowledge, wisdom, understanding, leading us to the right person. God is the source. I just want to remind you guys of that. And I want to thank my guests for joining us today on The Source. Please, our next source will be on February 20th, and we're talking about marriage.
Yes.
So please join us. We're talking about marriage. Come on, jam February 20th for our next session of The Source.
Till next time, continue to keep God at the center of it all, because He's the source. Let us pray. Thank you, God, for just being in our midst. Continue to be with us and continue to supply all our needs according to your riches in Christ Jesus. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Be blessed.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you again on The Source, where God is who we look to.
Amen.
See you next time.